everyone, Sabrina here from Scrappy Tales Crafts. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be using the cardinals that I showed in my last video. I had quite a few left over and I said that I was going to use them on some other card designs. So that is what today's video is. So I'm going to be using the Assorted Christmas Leaves die set along with the Cardinal Blessings 6x6 stamp set and the coordinating dies here. And then I'm also going to be using the Everyday Borders 1 and the Slimline Wood Grain background for my first card. So you can see that I went ahead and die cut it from craft cardstock. Because it's a background die and because it's so detailed, if you only run it through your machine once, those pieces inside are going to partially cut and stay inside the die. If you want them to cut out completely, you'll have to run it through a couple times or use your shim with it. But I actually wanted to keep everything in place, so I went ahead and glued that panel onto a cream panel. That way all those pieces would definitely stay in place and wouldn't move around as I apply my distress ink. So I'm going to be going around the edges of this panel with my Vintage Photo Distress ink. I did die cut this from a craft piece of cardstock, and I think that the Vintage Photo helps those cut lines show up more, and it's such a cool effect. It's almost like embossing, but it's not raised. It's kind of hard to explain, but I really love how it turned out, and I plan on doing this with the brick background too in an upcoming video. After going around the entire panel with my Vintage Photo, I thought I would also add some walnut stain just to the very edge to add some more depth. And I really like how that turned out. And I wanted this to look like a tree trunk. And I'm going to be having some of the Assorted Leaves greenery in front of the tree trunk, so they kind of look like branches on a tree. And then to really sell that this is a tree trunk, I thought I would die cut a circle from the center and have one of my little cardinals sitting on a nest inside that little hole. So the Assorted Christmas Leaves die set also include these pine cones. They're 2 layers, and I die cut both layers from craft cardstock and layered them together. To give them some more color and dimension, I squeezed or smushed my walnut stain distress ink on my glass mat. I added a little bit of water, and I'm just smushing those pine cones in that ink. And it's pretty splotchy, but I kind of like that effect, so there's some lighter and darker areas. I liked it so much that I decided to do the same thing with my greenery. Now, in hindsight, I should have used a darker green, but I think the darkest green I had was this rustic wilderness color, so it was lighter than my darker green cardstock. So what ended up happening is some of the areas lightened as opposed to darkened, which I was totally fine with. I do like that look. It kind of looks watercolory because it's kind of splotchy. So now I'm going to work on the sentiment, and this comes in the Cardinal Blessings stamp set. This says Christmas Blessings. I stamped it with Versamark ink on dark brown cardstock, and I'm going to gold heat emboss it. And that's going to go at the bottom of my tree trunk. I didn't have a lot of surface area left, so I like that this sentiment is just a long line. There is a coordinating die for it, but I decided to just freehand cut a strip out of it, and that just fit perfectly at the bottom. I did die cut a circle frame to go around the circle that I die cut from the center of this panel. That's just to, I guess, draw your eye in more towards that circle. And here I'm going to create my nest using some of the twigs from the Assorted Christmas Leaves die set. You can really do a lot with this set. I think it's a great like staple piece to have in your stash, and it's definitely one that you'll be using over and over again. You really, I feel, don't need any other greenery. If you have this set, you really have everything you need: twigs, branches, pine needles, holly leaves, and even more. I think there's like 8 or 10 different pieces. So I glued those branches behind my circle frame, and I'm just trimming it a bit. And here you'll see I'm going to add my cardinal right on top. I love that this looks like that's his little home inside the tree trunk. I am going to pop up this ring with some foam tape. I normally like to die cut some scrap paper, but I was under a time crunch here, so I just used my foam tape. I'm also going to pop up the bird while I'm at it. And then I will glue down my pine needles. I'm going to add the lighter green one on top and the darker green at the bottom. I'll pop up my sentiment with foam tape. What I love about the Cardinal Blessing stamp set is that some of the cardinals are sitting on branches, so they just fit perfectly with the greenery that I added underneath them. And then I thought those little pine cones also added a nice touch to the card. I have really been drawn to like this craft red and green color scheme and a little bit of gold as well. It's very rustic looking, and that wood grain embossed texture, or I guess cut texture, is such a cool effect. I'm going to also pop up my pine cones. My birds are popped up with 2 layers of white die cuts, which I had previously cut in my last video. If you want to see how I colored these cardinals, check out my last video. I'll have it linked in the eye, so you can click over there. But I just used my Zig Clean Color pens, and I just used 2 markers to color them in, so they're super simple. I added a smaller pine needle to the bottom to make this one a little more fuller, and I also like that small dark green pine needle overlaps the circle a bit. Okay, and then the only other thing I'm going to do to finish this panel off is add some red pearls onto some of the twig branches to make them look like berry branches. But first I'm going to glue a cream panel to cover my entire slimline card base. Whenever I'm working with warm colors, I tend to use cream as a base or craft. And whenever I'm working with cool colors, I like to use white typically. So I thought about having the cream peek through the hole, but I thought it made more sense to put that wood grain piece back in. So that's what I did there. Then I glued my panel to my card base, and then I will add my pearls. I did this in my last card and I love how it turned out, so I decided to do it again. I'm just going to create some little clusters of 3. Some are in a cluster of 2, and then some are just a single berry. And I did mix red and pink pearls together. And if you haven't already seen my last video, it's a part of a hop where we showcase the Assorted Christmas Leaves die set. And if you guys hop along and leave your comments, you can enter yourself to win an Assorted Christmas Leaves die set along with some other prizes. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet. And it just also shows you guys some more inspiration. So I added a couple berries to the bottom branch as well, and that will complete my first card. I love how it turned out. I think I got the tree trunk idea across pretty well. Now on to card 2, I'm going to do some ink blending. This is an A7 panel cut to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And I'm going to start by blending Salty Ocean at the bottom, Chip Sapphire in the center, and Blueprint Sketch in the center, and Chip Sapphire at the top. I kind of wish I also added Black Soot, because I really wanted this to be a dark, snowy sky, but I think it ended up looking pretty good. I am blending on 110 pound white Neenah cardstock. I'm going to go over each color twice to get a nice blend. And then I'm also going to splatter my silver pearlescent watercolor in the background to create the look of snow. Now the pearlescent watercolor is silver, therefore it's kind of muted. It has a very beautiful pearly shine to it. But if you want like bright white snow, I would recommend using white acrylic paint and water that down and splatter it. But I am just in love with my pearlescent watercolor, so that's what I went with. I'm, I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go ahead and splatter. I'm going to clean off my desk, and then I'll go my watercolor. You can see that I cut a snow hill for the bottom, so I didn't bother to go all the way down with my ink blending because I knew I was going to add a snow hill and a fence to the bottom of this panel. So all I have left is the birdhouse and 2 cardinals. So there's quite a few images in that stamp set to work with. I ended up creating 3 total cards using every image from the stamp, including the little presents and the envelopes, which I decided to add to the bottom of the birdhouse. Here I'm laying out my scene. I also will go ahead and stamp out my sentiment before I start gluing things down. I'm going to stamp Christmas Blessings again with VersaFine Onyx Black ink to the bottom of this snow hill. Now I ended up pushing a little bit too hard on that sentiment, so off camera I cut another snow hill and I re-stamped it. Both the snow hill and the fence come in the Everyday Borders set 1, and I'm trimming my fence to follow the slope of the hill. And I cut that from gray. My brown birdhouse is going to go right in front. I have another white pine needle branch at the top. I thought that looked kind of like a tree was off to the left and just the branch was showing. I have the rest of my stamped images that I will go ahead and lay out. So I like the way that this looks, so I'm going to trim off the greenery pieces on the 1 cardinal at the top just because this was a white pine needle. I didn't want to have green and white. So instead I left his pine cone and his branch. I will add the 2 layers of white die cuts behind both of the cardinals as well as the birdhouse and the presents to pop everything up. And if you would like to see close-up pictures of my cards today, you can head over to my coordinating blog. I also have other blogs by the design team members over there, so if you want to catch up on what the team has been up to, you can check out my previous posts, and quite a few of the designers have been working with the Cardinal Blessings stamp set. So if you want some additional inspiration, I highly encourage you guys to check out the blog and also follow me on Instagram. That is where I post all of the design team projects, including links to some more video tutorials by the team, as well as blog posts. I'm going to trim off my borders. And then I decided to have this 1 cardinal standing on top of the present. I thought that was really cute. And then all I have left are my presents and my cute little envelopes. This stamp set also includes a mailbox with presents inside. So instead of the birdhouse, I think the mailbox would have been really cute as well. So I was not intending to glue this envelope right here. I wanted it to go behind the birdhouse, but I ended up dropping it right next to the bird. And so instead of trying to pull it up, because our glitter glue glues very quickly, I just decided to leave it there. But I think it looks nice, so. I'm going to go ahead and mat this panel onto a black piece of cardstock. This is sized to cover my card base, so this is 5 by 7. I'll adhere that to my card base, and then the only other thing I'm going to do is add some clear iridescent gems on top of some of those larger ink splatters. I like that these are super subtle, but they do add a pretty shine, and they do mimic stars or snowflakes. Once those are all adhered, that is basically going to complete my card. Thank you guys for sticking around and watching this entire video. I'm going to have another one posted later this week. I have been pretty busy in the craft room. It's been so long. I've basically spent a whole month just drawing for the next collection, and I'm going to be getting those products in on Monday, which I think is the day I post this video. So I will be starting samples on Monday. I'm also going to post some more videos throughout. I'm just super excited. The next release is amazing, guys. I think it's going to be the best one of the year. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.